But on this long, challenging and very enjoyable racetrack, the Oreca cars were once again supreme, and the battle for the lead was between teammate Jean-Philippe Belloc and Olivier Beretta. The number 2 car had the lead to begin with, but within a short space of time, Beretta swept into the lead ahead of number 2. Back down the field, Freisinger and Conrad were battling out the old rivalry over which of them was top Porsche, an honour they've shared throughout the season and which seemed to be settled here when Wolfgang Kaufmann picked up a puncture on lap 13. As the pit stops began, that left the Conrad car looking good, but then came unexpected retirement with a broken drive shaft. The number 1 Viper had been in the lead since lap 2, but that was about to change after the second round of stops. Towards the end of the second hour, a transmission problem had slowed the number 2 car, and that meant it used less fuel during the hour, and that meant its second pit stop was quicker than the number 1 car. And that also meant it didn't need a splash and dash at the end of the race like its teammate, and that gave the crew of the number 2 Viper their 3rd victory of the season. With both titles already settled, the result didn't really change very much, though it gave American David Donoghue a long-awaited win on home soil. The win put the Oreca crews even further ahead in the points than they were before, and behind yet another Oreca 1-2, the number 19 Chamberlain Viper fulfilled pre-race predictions and grabbed the final rostrum spot. Celebrations then for all concerned. Olivier Beretta as happy as ever when he's got a bottle of champagne in his hand, which he's had at every round of the year except Germany when he was racing here in the USA. Now we're almost at the end of a 10-race season that started in Italy 7 months ago, where Beretta and Wendlinger took their first steps towards retaining their 98 crown for a second year. 4 more wins and 3 second places later, they arrive at the final round of the series as retiring champions, making their farewell appearance here at Zhuhai in the People's Republic of China. The circuit here in China is wide and flat, designed with modern Formula One in mind, with long straights interrupted by slow corners, an ideal basis for overtaking. Back at the final round were Rock Racing in conjunction with Certec, fielding 2 cars at this final round of a season which had never really gelled for the team the form book suggested should have been top Porsches. And things weren't so hot here either. 1 car eliminated in a tail-end collision with the wall, and another with a blown engine during practice completed a dismal weekend of qualifying, brightened only by the loan of an engine. That arrived just in time to enable the number 3 car to get out on track in the last qualifying session and sneak onto the tail end of the grid for Sunday afternoon's race. After delays caused by a failed transmission during Friday's free practice, the 2 Christians, Mann and Glasel, had better luck during the 2 shorter qualifying sessions on Saturday. But they still ended up with a slot on row 4, which left them more than a second away from the pole time, although come race day that may not be as disastrous as it sounds. The 2 drivers of the number 19 car have been together since the start of the year, which makes them just about the most consistent partnership in the championship. Their place behind the Oreca crews is bettered in the points only by Wolfgang Kaufmann, and that means that there is still an issue to be settled here this weekend, despite Oreca's dominance. the position of the two Chamberlain drivers as they prepare to challenge for what is effectively the runner-up spot behind the championship's only factory team is a testament to how well they've worked together throughout this season.
I think it's been an excellent partnership all year long. From the first race on, we've always been in the same pace, and that's what's been the secret really of the whole season. We've always been the same quick pace, so we always finished quite well in front.
Although, Christian, what about car setup? Some drivers like things differently. Is it been a problem?
No, not at all really. We sort of started off quite similar. We sit down after every time we drive, discuss, and we compromise really well. The team are really helpful with that too. We've got fantastic backup from them. The engineer's fantastic, and we were always able to work a really comfortable solution for both of us.
Paul Belmondo arrives here equal on points with a handful of other drivers who are disputing not just best of the rest in the points, but also the Privateers Cup, and he may just have come to the wrong place.
I think it suits better the Porsches, for sure, with the very slow corners and just going on the power. But we'll see. In qualifying they can run with a bit more boost, and so they can get a better advantage. And I'm not sure they'll have it in the race, so I think it's going to be one of the tightest race of the year.
But with one win to his credit already, Belmondo is in a strong position if the points remain equal at the end of this race. The number 18 Chamberlain car has been crewed by several drivers this year, but the end-of-season trio of Niamarim, Hans Hugenholtz and Michel Ligonnet have settled into a routine now and have as good a chance as anyone else here in a race in which fuel consumption will be a major factor.
That's correct. Fuel consumption is going to be one of the main elements of the race. I think within 2 or 3 laps, if we don't have a pace car, we will be able to refuel or not and win the race by not refueling.
Lumbering around the stop-go Zhuhai circuit in a Viper loaded up with the maximum 100 kilos of success ballast, which the rules allow, can't be fun, and it can't be easy. But the crew of Orica's #1 car managed to make it look easy wherever they go, and they were quickest of the big Yanks once again. As always, the team and the crew concentrated on getting set up for the race, which made their qualifying pace seem all the more incredible. Best of the Vipers by 2/10 from their teammates and half a second better than anyone else outside the Orica camp. Their only question marks for the 3-hour outing on Sunday afternoon were fuel consumption, fairly obviously, and perhaps more worryingly, brake pad wear as well.
Now we have 100 kilo penalty for the rules, and this track is not so fast and there is a lot of braking points, so slow down and the re-acceleration is quite a bit difficult for us. But I'm very confident because yesterday we didn't work for the pole, we worked only for the race because of the handicap. So I think we will have, I hope, a good race.
Now sharing the second Orica car with Jean-Philippe Belloc, Vincent Voss was hoping that a win here could boost him right up the points table. That might mean him finishing perhaps even as high as 5th place, but the Viper was well off the qualifying pace.
Well, it feels quite good because everything went to plan. It's just that we don't have pole position, but we have worked a lot for the race, and I think we have done quite a good job. We know we are quite strong in the race, but this is maybe a track for the other car, which have less weight, and but we are going to fight hard, and we are going to try everything.
With Sasha Masson at the wheel and driving as well as he ever has, the Conrad Porsche held the overnight pole and looked set to start from the #1 spot throughout almost all of the second qualifying session. It looked smooth and quick on track and sounded sharper than its nearest rival too. But in the end, the #6 car was knocked off the top spot within the last few laps of the second session, but still had that front row slot.
I don't know why. I cannot tell you why, but that's the feeling. We had a good race, the last race here 2 years ago, and we was good prepared. The car was good. Sasha did a great job, and we have not so much luck. We had a little bit small things happen in this fast lap in the second qualifying, and that was the 3/10. So we're happy with this. Our car is perfect for the race, and that's important. So we will check everything perfect. And it's a great thing here in the last race, the 2 Porsches in front, so it will be a fantastic race.
Wolfgang Kaufmann was the man who toppled Sascha Massen from pole, and it was arguably all down to the Nürburgring race instructor rather than the car. The Freisinger machine never looked or sounded the equal of the Conrad car, but Kaufmann dug deep, and perhaps the mechanics turned up the screw just a little as soft Dunlops were fitted for the final attempt. Either way, the black and white number 15 suddenly jumped to the top of the leaderboard at the very last moment, leaving Conrad little chance to find a reply. Porsche were on pole, Kaufmann's first ever in this series.
At the moment we are very happy. And first of all, thank you very much for the team, because they did a great job, and we had a long season, and they have really, really hard work. Also, thank you very much for Manfred Freisinger and Bob Bolek, so it's a really good thing.
Freisinger celebrated pole and a possible first win over the Vipers, but race day strategy would still be dictated by fuel consumption. There was a lot of planning still to do before the start at midday on Sunday. As the race day crowds stream into the Zhuhai circuit in the People's Republic of China, the modernity of this special economic zone mixes with the traditions of the country, and the official opening ceremony is conducted with a full turnout of local dignitaries and of dragon dancers too. Their presence here intended to ward off bad luck and make the race safe for all involved. But they couldn't ward off a change in the weather, and the balmy humidity of the South China Sea was swept away by a stream of cold air that flapped the flags and lowered the temperature by several degrees. With the track cooler than it's been all through practice and qualifying, and lower air temperatures giving the engines perhaps a little more power than they had before, the race pace may be quite quick, especially for the front runners. And remember that the Porsches probably won't be running the high boosts of the last 2 days, so the Vipers, especially the Oreca Vipers, may well be on much the same pace as the 2 front row cars. Whether or not they'll be on the same fuel consumption is another thing altogether. And it's fair to say that fuel will be marginal, and strategy, more than anything else, might decide the outcome of the race. In these situations, the scenario everyone dreads is when the car in front begins easing away at half a second a lap or so. If it gallops off at a really fast pace, then there's every chance you can catch it in the pit stop, because it will be using more fuel. But if it's edging away, then you have a problem, because it's probably going faster and sticking to a well-planned fuel strategy. And that's probably what will happen here today. It's the end of the season, everyone knows their cars, and everyone's got their sums right, and the grid is pretty close among the top few. Porsche's on the front row, as you know. You know pretty much everything else. Out of sight, probably you don't know the invited runners, the NGT category, which includes a few of the dramatic and attractive Lamborghini Diablos, plus a couple more Porsches, most notably perhaps Michael Eschmann's really pretty red 996 GT3. But all the action is going to be up here at the front. Can the Porsches finally inflict just one defeat on the Vipers during this 1999 season? The 2 rivals up front, Freisinger and Conrad, Wolfgang Kaufmann, Sascha Massen, both very quick drivers, and maybe today will be the day. Coming round onto the start-finish line for the start, the safety car's pulled off, the green light goes on, and away they go. Kaufmann nails it, gets the jump on Sascha Massen, and it's Freisinger in the lead. long, massive front straight here, 900 metres, almost a kilometre long, leading into a very slow right-hand corner at the end. You're looking at the 16 Freisinger car there. Kaufmann's up front and away, still in front. There he is, Sascha Maassen behind him in the number 6 Conrad car. So the Porsches have got the start they wanted. Now the question is, can they break away from the Vipers? Can they establish enough of a lead to keep ahead for the next 3 hours? Kaufmann, Maassen, then the number 2 Viper, the Chamberlain car. There's 21, that is Paul Belmondo's car as well. And the rest of the field, you can see the Lamborghinis there, but at the moment it's Porsche from Viper. It's the number 18 Chamberlain car squeezed into the gap between the two Orekas, and that's Kaufmann off. Kaufmann's in the gravel. Poleman and race leader off on the first lap. We're at turn 9 here at Zhuhai, and Wolfgang Kaufmann is beached in the gravel. That is the end of his race, almost certainly. Conrad, or rather Sascha Maassen in the Conrad car, takes up the lead. And behind him, it is still in the distance now, the Vipers. It's not Oreca in second place, though. That's the Chamberlain car that has stepped up to take over. So there's been a bit of a shift behind. And the number 18 Chamberlain car goes sideways, and past goes Carl Wendlinger in the Oreca Viper. So, and there's the safety car on track. Well, that must be because Wolfgang Kaufmann's car is beached in the gravel. He's gone wide in turn 9, and if anybody else goes off there, they'll be going straight towards him. Safety car out. Well, they retrieve that car. All the gaps close up. Sascha Maassen will be thinking evil thoughts in his crash helmet there, because he was definitely getting away. Into the pits comes the number 7 car, Conrad's second car, on tick over, got a throttle problem, being pushed back into the box as they clean up the gravel at turn 9.
Yeah, accelerator broke and we changed, we lose so many times. Now we try to finish the race in any case and amuse ourselves at least.
Well, there you heard it, the accelerator has broken. In fact, it's a bracket that's broken, and while they're welding that up, the safety car goes off. Lap 5 of the race, we have a restart. We have Sascha Maassen in the lead. Second place, it is the number 1 Oreca Viper. Behind that, Chamberlain 18 and 19, 21. And that was Wolfgang Kaufmann. Well, he's obviously out of position. He's been pulled out of the gravel during the safety car laps, and he is officially last as Wendlinger kicks up a little bit of dust. You'll see that fairly frequently here at Zhuhai. It's very flat, and they run to the very edge of the curbs. It's very dusty here. You'll often see a little puff of dust. Looks dramatic. Very seldom anything goes wrong, although try telling that to Wolfgang Kaufmann. But it is very dusty and very slippery. If you get off the line, you could be in a whole bunch of trouble. So they're taking it to the absolute limit. And just look at the way Wendlinger is pressuring Sascha Maassen, leaning on the Porsche as hard as he can. Well, you've heard what they said. That car's carrying an extra 100 kilos of ballast. The minimum weight for the series, 1,100 kilos, so that's at least 1,200 kilos. And it really does mean he can't get on the gas as soon as he would like. He's got to brake sooner than the Porsche. He's got to work much harder to stay with it, but he is indeed staying with it. Sascha Maassen leads it. Carl Wendlinger is second. Nii Amorim for Chamberlain is in third place. Behind that is the second of the Chamberlain cars, number 19, that's Christian Van. And behind that, the number 21, Belmondo. It's been driven by Dominic Dupuy for this opening hour. But Belmondo right up there, he was quite confident that he'd be there or thereabouts in the race, and so it seems. Well, can Sascha Maassen ease away from Carl Wendlinger? That's the job he has to take on now. He's been very quick in a Porsche all through this season, seen him most often with Rock Racing, but now partnering Franz Conrad really has made this car come alive. State of the art for the Porsches here, sequential gearbox, the whole thing, and Sascha Maassen really making good use of it. And that is Wolfgang Kaufmann passing Michael Eschman's 993. Pretty looking car, but as you can see, not in the same league. Well, he was last, but he's on his way past Paul Holberside as he works his way back up through the field. He's got an awful lot of work to do, and Freisinger's dream of winning a race to end the year and beating the Orica Vipers seems to have been thwarted on lap 2, but never mind, he's moving through the field as we look at race leader Sascha Maassen, followed by Carl Wendlinger, followed then by Nee Amorim in the number 18 Chamberlain Viper. Back out onto the start-finish straight. That's the really important corner here at Zhuhai. You need all your power because this straight is a motorway. It's huge, it's wide, it's long, and it leads down to the braking zone here. Nice slow right-hander, and you don't want anybody breathing down your neck. You don't want them drafting you down there because they will try and outbrake you going into the corner. Gets all short, sharp and choppy round here, as you can see. Short straights, but then you turn left here and the circuit starts to run away from the pits, and you've got 2 more very long fast straights, so there's every opportunity here for overtaking. Maassen still being pressured as they run down towards us. That's Paul Holberside, and little bit of Lamborghini overtaking in the background, making a race of it among themselves. They're going to finish a long way down on the GT2 cars, but there is a race going on throughout this field at every level. There's Maassen catching up the tail enders now, beginning to look up ahead to see those slower cars, and when they catch up with the traffic, that's when Carl Wendlinger might find this race start to get very interesting indeed. Maassen has got to find his way through. He's got to open the door. Wendlinger will just tack on the tail end. It's all going to be very easy for him. It depends how you come up upon the back markers. Sometimes it's very easy, sometimes it just falls wrong for you and the man behind suddenly has an advantage. Certainly Sascha Maassen now with a lot to think about, because he has to think about his own drive, he has to think about the man in front and how, where and when he's going to pass, and he's got to watch his mirrors. Through they go. Nice and easy for both of them, but look at Wendlinger just glued to the tail end of that green and blue Porsche. Went straight through there. They moved aside and let Maassen through, but Wendlinger is almost touching the tail end there. And that's going to be the story of the race from now on. They will always be in traffic, and there will always be this pressure on Sascha Maassen. All Carl Wendlinger's got to do is try and follow him. A little bit of inter-team rivalry there between Rino Mastronardi and Andrea Garbagnati from the Habatha cars. No team orders there, quite obviously. No orders here either for Sascha Maassen, except to try and make the break, and it's not happening as the race unfolds. The Venturi of Michel Leville, next obstacle for Sascha Maassen. Leville sees them, moves aside, and he didn't, I don't think, see that there was a Viper hidden behind the Porsche. Oh, look, here comes Wendlinger now, having a look. He was nice and close, got on the gas as hard as he could. He's running alongside Sascha Maassen, not close enough to do it at the bottom here, but pressure all the same, showing Sascha Maassen the front end of that Viper alongside him on the straight adds to his worries. He's got to think about his speed, his braking points, and now he's really got to start thinking about driving defensively. Carl Wendlinger obviously wants the lead, and it may well be that once he gets past, he can pull away at a greater race of knots. Maassen's got to think about all of that from now on. Sascha Maassen leads the final round of this series from the Orica Viper of Carl Wendlinger in second place, and you can see that the two of them are pulling away from Nee Amorim in the first of the Chamberlain cars. Second car, number 19 in the background there, just a glimpse of that with the number 2 Viper jumping up and down behind, looking for his way past. Despite the long straights and the slow corners, it's not... Oh, look at this! Wendlinger goes through! Maassen was going past Philippe Cherry. Oh, Maassen holds his line and holds his nerve. Shuts the door on Carl Wendlinger. That's exactly what we were talking about. You come up on the traffic. Wendlinger saw that opportunity opening up before him, and he snatched at it. Very aggressive move from Carl Wendlinger. That was a racer's pass and no mistake. Sascha Maassen kept his nerve. Wendlinger, being the gentleman, didn't push it, and neither did Maassen. Excellent work from two very experienced and very polished professional race drivers. Wendlinger's going to have to think about that again. Sascha Maassen will be reliving that in his mind and thinking, how can I stop him doing that next time? And the answer is, you probably can't. Maassen looking up ahead, looking down at the dashboard, looking either side. Which side is Wendlinger going to make the move on? He is going to make it, and Sascha Maassen's got to watch the mirrors. Look at the size of the wing on the back of the Porsche. The rules say that it can't extend beyond the bodywork when seen from above, but it's still a fairly big thing, and there's not a big view to the rear, even in the mirrors. Out onto the front straight, the mega speed Porsche. Local entry is the next car ahead for Maassen and Wendlinger. Maassen will be dreading it, Wendlinger will be looking forward to it. Has the driver seen them? Will the blue flags be waved? Wendlinger kicking up the dust, using all of the racetrack. That's not because he's trying so hard, it's just because that car is big and heavy, and he needs all the racetrack to stay on the pace of Sascha Maassen, who is now tucked right up behind and going past. Wendlinger's going with him as well. And Wendlinger is still dangerously close to Sascha Maassen. It's been pressure since the safety car went in at the end of lap 5. Maassen doing a great job as we look back down the field. Martin Eckert and Arthur Erks in two of the NGT Porsches. But here they come again, closing up on the Lamborghini now. What will happen as Maassen has to think about this one? Wendlinger's looking for his opportunity. Maassen pulls out. He doesn't want to pull too far clear of the Diablo. He doesn't want to leave that little gap he left before when they were going past Philippe Chariot. This time he gets it right. Wendlinger can't do anything about it. And Sascha Maassen checks his mirrors as they come out onto the front straight. Wendlinger is close behind. He's thinking about it. That must be an intimidating sight for any driver. They're huge things, Vipers. They look bigger in the mirror, especially when they're pressed up against your rear wing. No problem this time. More in front though. More of the Lamborghinis to get through. Number 18 Chamberlain car still coming. Look back behind and you can see that Belloc has got past Christian Van in the number 19 car. No problem this time for Maassen, but they are in some fairly heavy traffic. This is going to be critical stuff for him. Wendlinger got through there. Sascha Maassen desperately wants to put a back marker between himself and Carl Wendlinger, even if it's only for a couple of turns, just to give himself a little bit of breathing space, but it isn't happening. They're all so terribly well behaved, the drivers here. Oh dear, not all of them though. Frank Vieth, the front end of the number 62 Porsche has gone missing as Maassen continues to resist the pressure from Carl Wendlinger. And they continue to pick their way through the traffic. We've just seen Martin Eckert and Arthur Erks up in front, and they are about to close up on them. Two more Porsches to get through. They will know the leaders are coming, hopefully. Through the tight and twisties with Carl Wendlinger right on his tail. And the whole front end of that number 62 car has been missing. Patch it up and send it back out. It's tapped the back end of a Viper and comes second in the contest. But it will continue even though it's losing laps here in the pits. And here is Maassen being pressured by Carl Wendlinger. Wendlinger's on the inside, he's through. He's got to be through, he's got his nose in front. Wendlinger does it. Sascha Maassen left that door just a little bit wide. He has played the gentleman all the way down the line. Held his nerve last time and he had the edge of speed to get away with it. That time he left Carl Wendlinger enough room to race with him, and he didn't have the speed, and the Viper has got through. So on lap 19 we have a new race leader, and guess who it is? Number 1 Oreca Viper out in front, now going past the Philippe Chariot Lamborghini for the second time. and already the traffic has clotted up, and Sascha Maassen has lost the toe. He's got the disadvantage he was trying to inflict on Wendlinger. Now that is cruel luck indeed. Every time they've closed up on tail enders, it's broken well for Sascha Maassen and for Carl Wendlinger. This time, as Wendlinger went through, the traffic's fallen badly for Maassen. And that is Patti Pregliasco about to rejoin, having had that accelerator bracket welded back on. Countless laps lost, but going out to amuse himself, as he said, and play the game. Hard work in the pits for the Conrad crew, and you're looking at number 19, Christian Van, at the moment on track, chasing past Philippe Chariot, so still more or less in touch with the leaders, still holding on to the toe from the front, but this field's starting to spread out, as you can see, and this is the scenario that everybody hates. They're running to the plan. That's the Megaspeed car wandering about under brakes as Wendlinger comes up behind it. Watch him now. As soon as he gets a clear piece of road, they turn right here, stands on it, and away he goes. The Viper clearly much quicker, and Maassen's still there. Sascha Maassen's got through the traffic. Can he catch up with Wendlinger? He can't afford to let him go, really. He can't afford to run outside his fuel consumption window either, but he can't let the Viper get away. If Wendlinger is driving to the fuel consumption plan and easing away, then it's disaster for the Conrad team, because there's not much they can do about it. Still one car between them, Maassen pulling out now, but there is 3 or 4 seconds gap. What will happen now? Clear track as they come towards the end of another lap. There's the race leader on the front straight, Maassen behind him, and we are definitely looking at a growing lead. The number 8 Porsche in the pits. An early fuel stop. It's come in because there's a clutch problem as well. You can see the mechanics clustered round it. And they're definitely going to have to do something about that, checking the fluid levels in the clutch master. Oh, what's this all about? Albert Jürgen, trailing a cloud of smoke, has pulled off at the end of the front straight. Oh, and look at this, the Megaspeed car's on fire. There's a Lamborghini in there as well, Georges Cavan. And it could be a disaster. The driver out, Samson Chan, gets out of the Megaspeed Porsche. Black cloud at the end of the front straight. Flames everywhere, petrol pouring out. Safety car at least. Oh, look at the state of that. It's the end of the front straight. They've got a kilometre to think about it coming down here. The yellow flags are waving. Hardly necessary, because you can't miss that, can you? And the safety car indeed out on track. Lap 25, and it's out for its second appearance of the weekend in a race which has been packed with incident from very start to now. All going round very slowly. This is what caused it. The Lamborghini spun, the Megaspeed Porsche tapped it very hard from behind. The petrol feed, or the tank, has split. Flames everywhere. Both drivers safely out. There was another Porsche, Albert Jürgen, somewhere involved in that as well. We saw him trailing a cloud of smoke, but everybody safely away, and the safety car on track as the corner workers clear away the wreckage and prepare to get another green flag, which will give us our third start of the day, and Sascha Maassen a reasonable chance. The safety car leads the race leader, the number 1 Viper of Carl Wendlinger, around the Zhuhai circuit. It's almost difficult to believe it, but we are just coming up to the first scheduled set of fuel stops as Wolfgang Kaufmann brings in the Freisinger car hands over to Bob Wallach, taking advantage of the safety car. We are still ahead of the first round of scheduled stops. We've had the safety car out twice. The first race leader spun off. Here he is, and you can see the gravel trap falling out of the wheel arches. Kaufmann blew it early on. Sascha Maassen managed to fend off Carl Wendlinger for quite a while, but eventually the Viper got the best of him. And now, as the Freisinger crew try to undo the damage and work their way back up the field, they use the safety car to get a little bit of advantage out of what has to be a fuel stop. And the appearance of the safety car twice this early in the race means that everybody's sums have changed. There it goes, back in, green flag on lap 31, so 6 laps of safety car. We're off racing again, and it hasn't done Sascha Maassen any good at all. He really didn't get the slingshot. Carl Wendlinger got the start. The safety car went in, and Wendlinger nailed it. And away he goes. Sascha Maassen got stuck behind another back marker, didn't get the advantage that Wendlinger got, and really that hasn't changed very much as they come in for the first scheduled stop. This is the race leader. Wendlinger's done an excellent job. He's driven a really intelligent and fast race, and he hands over to Olivier Beretta with a comfortable looking lead, as long as the pit stops are quick, efficient and no problem, which they almost always are. Fuel lines off, there's no one there, there comes, they're not changing tyres, they're out. Well, there was nobody there with wheels, nobody there with air guns, and the Orica team have gone without the tyre change, which most people were expecting, including the Chamberlain team. In comes Nee Amorim, and you can see the guns being prepared. So they took about 30 seconds off the stop, maybe a bit longer, and that was good work for them. Now, whether or not the Conrad crew are prepared to do the same and can do the same remains to be seen. They know what to expect. They've seen it happen. Whether they will do the same, well, let's wait to see what happens. This is Chamberlain changing tyres as Olivier Beretta puts some miles on the clock for his first outing in the second stint in this race on tyres which have been already fairly well used by Carl Wendlinger. What will happen to Beretta? Can he maintain the pace? Can he maintain the lead? In comes Christian Van. Driver swap for Chamberlain, fuel going in, and there are wheels there. Whether they're going to change tyres or not remains to be seen. Orica have suddenly opened a whole new area of discussion, and it's not just fuel consumption. They're not going to change the tyres, they're telling him to go. Always a heart-stopping moment with a hot race engine, but it fires up and away goes the number 19 car with Christian Glasl at the wheel. There's the race leader, or he will be when the pit stops settle down. And in comes the Conrad car. Sascha Maassen has done an excellent job as well. Franz Conrad takes over from here. Fuel going in at the front. The only people allowed to touch the car while that's happening are the drivers, one out and one in. If they're going to change tyres, they have to wait until the fueling has finished. It's gravity fed, it can't be pumped in, and there is no way to rush fuel stop in this championship. No wheels. So Franz Conrad going out without fresh tyres. So everybody following the lead, which has been set up by Orica, and out goes Franz Conrad to see if he can catch up Olivier Beretta after Sascha Maassen did such a great job in the first hour.
I had a good fight with the Viper, and my goal was to save the tyres, because we saved one tyre change now, which is good. We gained some time in the pits, and I think Franz can do a very good job, and I hope he stays second, but we will see.
You can never tell what's happening in one of these 3-hour endurance races. Sascha Maassen looked like he was driving out of his skin to stay in front of Carl Wendlinger. Now says he was trying to save the tyres. And obviously Carl Wendlinger was trying to do much the same thing in his car.
Yes, it was very hard for us to pass him, because the Porsches are very fast on the straight, and we only can make our time under braking. And because we're already very heavy with the extra ballast, it's not so easy on the braking, because on the circuit on some places it's quite slippery. So it's a big risk to spin off if you brake too late. So I had to wait really until his tires success went down a little bit, and then I could pass him.
Well, that made it sound easy, and that sounds as if all is not well. That is the second place car. There's the race leader, Olivier Beretta, but that looked as though the number 6 Porsche was slowing on track. Sascha Maassen's just handed over to Franz Conrad, and he's in the pits, and he is indeed. That is not going to be a stop. He's pulling in and retiring. It's all over for the number 6 car, so this looks like the Porsche dream of doing something here this weekend to finally beat the Vipers is going to come to nothing, because into the pits goes what must be a very disappointed Franz Conrad. Well, the body language says everything. Sasha Massa and the team will already know what Franz Conrad has just relayed to the race control. You can say nothing, can you? That body language says everything. There's the race leader, now very comfortably ahead of second place. That's number 19. And then his teammate number 2 in third place. So it's Beretta who leads, Christian Glasl in second place, and then in third place the second of the Oreca cars. So it looks as though situation normal has been restored here at the final round in Zhuhai after such a promising 2 days of qualifying, such a promising and such a dramatic and eventful opening few laps. But now it looks as though the Conrad dream at least has ended.
Gearbox, we tried again the new sequential, and we got some new stuff, and we don't know now what's broken. Is the new stuff broken or is the old stuff broken? Even it's the gearbox now. We cannot shift any gears now anymore, and it's a shame. I was really surprised how good the car was and how good we did the weekend. It's a shame for the team the way it's happened.
That is, as they say, racing, as Olivier Beretta comes in for his second stop, or rather for the car's second stop, his first. Carl Wendlinger back in for the final hour. 62 laps into a race that's going to end after 3 hours, and this time they must put fresh tyres on. Yes, they are. Look at the brakes coming off this car. It weighs 100 kilos more than anything else out there, and you can see they've been working the brakes hard. What you probably can't see is that they always check inside the wheel arch when that front wheel comes off. They make sure that there's enough margin on the brake pads and they don't need to be changed in the race. That doesn't happen often. It has done in longer races, but not here today. Out goes the race leader, and he will resume the race lead as the pit stops jumble up the order and then settle it down. At the moment this car is in the lead. That's Christian Glasl in the Chamberlain car, number 19, but that won't last. In comes the number 2 car, Jean-Philippe Belloc, who started the race, gets back in for the final hour. They changed tyres when they came in for the first stop. They had a very good stop and swap places with Chamberlain. They're changing tyres again. And you can see again that the brakes on this car have been working very hard indeed. It's not as heavy as its teammates, but it is heavy enough. It is carrying extra ballast. Can't rush the fuel stop. Out comes the airline. Down goes the car. Fires up without any problem. Always no fuss, no bother at an Oreca pit stop. New race leader was number 18, but it looks as though that's about to change. Carl Wendlinger unlapping himself. Carl Wendlinger now out for the final hour, and that number 18 Viper has yet to stop. The number 19 car is out, so the Chamberlain pit is clear for another stop. Paul Belmondo's car, he's been running well this weekend. Belmondo has run the middle hour. Dominic Dupoy takes over for the final hour. He started the car as well. Up on the jacks for the tyre change. Running towards the end of a race, and there are places to be made up for everybody. The Freilinger car's been whizzing up through the field, and he's actually now, remember it was dead last, it made it up to 13th fairly quickly. Took a while to climb up, but it's now looking at a top 6 finish, perhaps even better than that. You're looking at the race leader, the number 1 Viper, and there's the number 19 car in its stop. Tyre change has to be done, and the question now is where it will rejoin. It's unlikely that it will rejoin in front of the number 1 car. They've built up a fairly comfortable cushion. Olivier Beretta is done. This is how they built it up. It's a splash and dash towards the end of the race. They've used enough fuel for it to have to come back in again, but they've built up the cushion. Look at them all checking the watches. They are counting the amount of fuel that goes in and the amount of time they can afford to spend at rest. The number 19 Chamberlain car is out there on track, and it is closing in all the time. This car is stationary. This is critical stuff. Off with the fuel line, start the engine, and Carl Wendlinger goes out. They didn't change drivers because they didn't have time, and the number 19 car hasn't taken the lead, but it has closed the gap. Closing in on the number 2 car. There it is. Jean-Philippe Bellot running very, very slowly. They've opted to do splash and dash with the number 1 car, but not with number 2, and it's losing places. It's losing time. It's lapping about 5-6 seconds slower each time round than everybody else, and that means it's dropping down the order, and it's not going to change the outcome. The team watch, you can see the fingers crossed there in the pit box. They watch waiting for the flag, but the tension is all over, and there it is. Beretta and Wendlinger win again, but the second place for the Chamberlain car, probably the big news of the day. Bigger even than third place for Belmondo, who've ended the season with a flourish, including a win in Florida a month ago. But the real celebrating here has to be the crew of the number 19 Viper, Christians, Glasel and Van, who've given the team a solid second place in the Teams Championship, and they've wrapped up the Privateers Cup into the bargain. Final points at the end of the season show you that the Orica crews have dominated the Drivers' Championship, especially Carl Wendlinger and Olivier Beretta, of course.
Yeah, I'm very happy because today was no pressure at all, but we want to win this race because it was the last race and everything went very well. We have a little bit problem with the consumption, so we changed the strategy. We double stint with the tires. We never do that before, and the Michelin tires work very, very well. And I mean, we have a perfect weekend.
A good end to the year for Chamberlain gave them second place on track and 2 titles to take home to England, so it's job well done all round.
Yeah, good weekend. It was sad about the other car because that was going very well most of the time, but this car just ran faultlessly, and the guys did a hell of a good job, and the drivers didn't put a foot wrong, and the mechanics were fantastic. Really, the pits, they turned the car around quicker than anybody else in the pit lane. Fantastic.
Not a bad end to the season for Paul Belmondo either, finishing the year with a 3-race flourish of podiums.
Yeah, we're happy. I mean, finished the year with a podium. I mean, the last 3 races were very good. We did 1st, 5th and 3rd. I mean, it's a good result, and for me it's the second time I'm on the podium on that track, so I'm happy.
But what a roller coaster weekend for Freisinger in general and for Wolfgang Kaufmann in particular.
It seems to be okay that we finished 3rd, but then in the last lap I get misfire, and then we had no more fuel, and I try again everything with misfire, and but the car stops on the track, so it was really no way to finish 3rd now. That's racing.
So Orica bow out of the championship on the highest of highs. But the Vipers will be back next year facing fresh challenges, not just from Porsche and Lister, but from Ferrari and Lamborghini as well.